Hi, Roslyn. How are you? Season
Hey,
greetings. I hope you and your family had a wonderful Christmas. I actually traveled Christmas Eve, and I thought the airport would have been so crazy, but it was actually workable. So, all the best for the upcoming year. And I know we have a lot of work to do, but we're ready for it.
we are. Thank you for the greetings and greetings to you and your family. I tend to spend Christmas with friends because, friends are like family, as most of my family lives outside of Grenada. And we did have a really wonderful time. So thank
Awesome.
you for asking. And I'm excited about our forthcoming book, The Dark Side of Leadership, Shining the Light.
Yes, yes. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, I think it's interesting for the audience to just be able to have an appreciation for how we met. And I think that our relationship is really dynamic in
Yes.
how it began and what led us to this point right here.
Mhm.
So let's
It
share with
actually,
them how we met, and then they
sure.
can get to know a little bit about us.
Well, actually, we met in one of my positions as a leader, and I had to make a very, very difficult decision. And it didn't go across well with those who I was leading, but it was definitely necessary for the success of the organization. So I hired in or voted in Roslyn, and she became one of my co-workers, and it was one of the best decisions ever. We met in 2020 during COVID, and we have actually never met in person, but we
Oh.
talk to each other every day. Every weekend, we WhatsApp each other. We are in constant contact with each other. So we definitely have a sisterhood.
Yes, yes. I think that's just what's really interesting about our journey, in that we have been able to prove the fact that it is possible to have successful teams that work remotely. That's the first. And to have a professional relationship with each of those individuals. And then after our official time ended in that capacity, it really grew into a virtual friendship. And it reminded me of when I was a teenager. I used to have pen pals from all over the world, and it just became like this virtual pen pal where we would just exchange ideas. And then in part of our exchanging ideas and just talking and decompressing from just days work or a period of time, I shared with you, said, I think it would be really interesting to write a book about this. And then you were willing to do that and say, like, well, let's talk about it. Let's work on this together. And it was really from that place of healing.
Yes.
And I would say, when you enter into a leadership position, one of the things that they don't teach us at university colleges and community colleges is the reality of working in the workforce, that you really are encountering individuals with different backgrounds, different
Different
personalities,
personalities.
people who don't have a spiritual relationship with the Lord, and they are coming for you. And,
Mm.
and and with that, you you could be blindsided. And that's the dark side of leadership that we wanted to just shine the light on. Would you agree with that?
Most definitely. And in terms of your leadership journey, if you know what to expect or how to maneuver around it, then you can definitely achieve your successes, because we have heard of leaders that have quit midway or who have given up because the journey became so difficult, or the things that they experienced was so heartbreaking that they couldn't continue with the journey. And so we hope with this book that your toolkit will be well equipped to help you to achieve your goals as a leader. And when we
Mm.
talk about leaders, persons think that you have to be a CEO or have a supervisory position, but you're a
At
leader
all.
within your household, you're a leader in your community activity groups, you're a leader in a group of friends. So leadership does not mean a designated title. It just means that you are chartering a path and you have persons that are going along with you on the journey.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think what's really interesting is when we put out the announcement that we had this book coming out in 2025, we just put a organic survey to just not only collect information from individuals, which we would have that link for you, and also within YouTube, you would see the link for you to join our mailing list. But I think what was really interesting about that organic survey was just some of the responses that leaned into what we wrote. And let's share that. What do you think? We could share that with the audience
Yeah,
now,
sure,
just
we
some
can. We
excerpts.
can. Yes, we can.
So this first one, people remaining truthful and accountable for their actions. And that is in response to a paraphrase question of what's the most difficult challenge that you have? People remaining truthful and accountable for their actions. How do you feel our book talks about, answers that question?
Well, in our book, we give you the tools not only to hold persons accountable, but also to prepare yourself to hold yourself accountable. One of the things as a leader that I realize is self evaluation and being able to do what you say you're going to do. And if you don't, there is somewhat a consequence. It's something that not only the persons who are being led need to be held accountable, but also the leaders. And so if you better prepare yourself with self-evaluation and know how to maneuver around holding people accountable. And in some situations, we tend to say, or the consequences will be harsh, or what will be the pushback if you make a decision. But sometimes it's definitely necessary in order to achieve the goal of the organization or the team that you're leading. Because if you don't and persons are not held accountable, it can really, really mess with your goals and the goals that you want to achieve for the team.
I agree. Persuading others to step to leadership. And I agree with you in terms of we do have to, as leaders and in any capacity, do some self-evaluation. How are we coming across as a leader? What is the deep intent of our speech and our words? So if you are yelling and screaming at your subordinates or your managers, what is it that you're really trying to accomplish here? Yeah. And if you are micromanaging, constantly criticizing, not giving a person an opportunity to just try, just to be able to use all the tools that you have provided them to do their job, then how can you persuade them to step up to leadership? And so are
Yeah,
you really truly cultivating an environment that welcomes expression, that welcomes the sharing of ideas? And another thing, Brenda, I'm sure you could agree with that we spoke about, there just sometimes where as a leader, you have to make a decision that people are not going to like. And that is one of the dark sides of leadership. You have to understand that not everyone is at the same maturity level as you, and they may not like you,
yeah,
and you're not hired to like someone, you're hired to do a job, and you need to
mhm,
have professionalism to know how to speak to another person. So you can't be hostile because you personally don't like them, or you're upset about the fact that your idea didn't work. These things are really counterproductive. But all that to
yeah,
say is, as a leader, you really have to be mindful of how you're communicating, what kind of environment that you're setting for your team, and knowing that how you do that will affect your
is
ability
reflective.
to persuade others to step up.
Not only not only that, Roslyn, I think as leaders, sometimes we feel that we have arrived. And so we have
True.
arrived and there's no opportunity. We know it all. And as leaders, you don't know it all. And you can learn so much from your team, different perspective, new ways of doing things, different ways of approaching things. So you as the leader, you also have to be open and have an open mindset to change, to accommodation, to being a leader that is worth following. In other words, that you actually walk the walk. So you're not there telling them, you're going to roll up your sleeves also, and you get into what you expect them to do. One of the things that I, as a personal thing for myself, I never ask those that I am leading to do anything that I won't do myself or
Mm.
that I would feel uncomfortable doing. So before I even say, let's do this, I go through it and I say, okay, how would I approach it? So what are some of the things that would make this not something that I want to do? And so as a leader, it is very important that you two go through the phases of learning. And because you're a leader, you would have sometimes to make the ultimate decision. Sometimes you would have to take things to another level that can perhaps have a negative effect for the persons that you're leading. And you need to look at a bigger picture. What happens to the rest of the team if you don't make a particular decision? Or how is the decision that you're not making or that you're making, how does it affect the total cohesiveness of the team? And so for me, it is always very important to look at the pieces, put them together so that you get the whole picture. And just like a puzzle, it has different shapes, different cuts. Um, but if you're putting a puzzle together, you get to recognize that all the sharp edges will make the rim of the puzzle. And so it then helps you to work faster, better, more efficient by putting what needs to be in place to even get the frame and then start to fill in the pieces. So I always look at my leadership as putting a puzzle together. And so I try to get to know the persons that I'm working with and try not to have my preconceived notions influence the decisions that I make. And it's very difficult. It's an exercise. It's very difficult because, everyone comes in with their emotions, with their experiences. Some of the experiences, if they're not good, you may bring it into the new relationship and then have a different perspective or a different look. And I always believe that, give persons the opportunity. And sometimes persons don't even know that they're doing something wrong. So communication is key to having that person see. And trust me, there are also going to be situations where you have tried all these different types of ways of getting something done. And then comes the time to say, okay, should I continue with this or not? So being a leader is a very difficult role to play.
It is very difficult, and it can really feel like a lonely place.
Oh,
You could feel really, really lonely. And this leads into another quote that we have. My biggest challenge is not letting my emotions take control and to find the right tone of voice when answering persons. For sure. I think in one of the things that's important is to have the whole picture in terms of the overall goal of what
mhm.
it is that you want to accomplish. And so the challenge comes into when suggestions do come, you're operating from the end goal. So is it going to throw us off course, or is it really going to help us to move forward? So in taking suggestions and altering ways of getting to the end goal is certainly welcome, but then the challenge is that when you have to say no, this is a really great idea, cannot be used at this time, and then having to get the backlash for that because people just don't necessarily they're not happy with that. But in
Mhm,
terms of us as leaders generally, regardless of what's thrown at us, we really truly have to remain as professional as possible. And
yes,
even if it's just to step away from a minute,
mhm,
or physically bite your tongue while your mouth is closed, to just not say, match that energy that is
being,
counterproductive to a professional setting, then that's what you have to do. And I think
yes.
the second thing, in addition to sometimes leadership can feel really lonely, here's the other one. It could be exhausting
Oh,
because
yes.
it's
Oh, yeah.
exhausting to do just that. to not let your emotions take control. And
One
so
of,
we have to find ways to have an outlet, and not
yes, we
take
do.
that
Yes,
energy
we do.
back home to your family and to your children that
One,
you were sucking up all day, and then you
and
just
have
let
to
it
go on
rip.
with it.
Nah, you know, you really do have to find a way to release that. Play tennis, go for a walk, go for a swim,
Well, one of the
for a
things that
partner,
I think
something.
is very important, and one of the things I do is I love SWOT analysis. So I do it on myself. And I
Mm,
learned at a very young age that I speak with my hands, I speak with my eyes. So, and my whole facial expression. So that was one of the things I had to work on, and I'm still working on it. Is not letting you know by just, yeah, I would roll my eyes and those type of things. And it became for me now, what is a person perceiving? So I now count in my head, to a certain number, or I tell the person, let's table this and we'll discuss it another time. Or I
perfect.
just really, really sit and document for myself the steps that led it to that. Because confrontations usually are a buildup of something. And so the reaction and the action and the reaction doesn't happen on the first occasion. So it's very important. And in our book, we talk about making sure that things are documented so that you make an educated decision and not an emotional decision. Give yourself guidelines as to how many times would you accept that behavior before the next step will then have to be in place.
Absolutely.
And the thing
Mm,
is to communicate that to the person so they also know what is expected of them. One of the things that I always remember asking is, so you're my boss. So who evaluates my boss? And so I always think it's very important for persons to have an outlet or a means of saying that, hey boss, you need to look at certain things that you can do different. So I always suggest having on a box where you can write down certain things or type it out and put it in that you can tell the leader, listen, you could have dealt with this differently. Sometimes switching up the role so that the person can see exactly what the leader is doing at that time and why it was important to decide to do something at a time is also sometimes an idea because it gives a person a different perspective on how things are really done from a seat of leadership. And so it is very important, and I can't say it again. As a leader, it does not mean that you have arrived. It just means that you're
mm,
assisting others to arrive also. And so in the process, your mindset has to be one of really listening and really paying attention to the individuals. Sometimes we have a tendency of clasping persons together and putting a bow on it and saying that's a set. And it's usually not. Pay attention to changes in the persons that you're leading. Maybe something outside of your scope is happening to that person that is, maybe they can't talk about, but it is affecting the relationship or their workload. And so it's very important. And I don't mean to delve into person's business, but you need to be very aware of the changes in the persons around you. Maybe you would see that the person doesn't take lunch breaks anymore, or the person seems really tired, or the person seems really angry. And have a one-on-one or find a way to find out what is the issue. And so all of those things makes leadership a 24-hour job because while you're leading, you're still trying to figure out if the journey that you're taking is the right one. If there's an issue that comes up, you want to solve it. So it can get exhausting. And one of the things that I learned to do was also to time myself. So I have some very good friends, some sisters that would tell me, you don't sleep, or you don't do this, or you don't do that. And so for me, I had to slow down and say, Brenda, after this hour is no more this. After
mm,
this hour, this. So I had to make a schedule for myself, also, Roslyn, in
mhm,
order to manage my time and my energy and my mindset to be able to still be a productive leader.
mhm. Here's another one, staff agreeing to commitments, but doing something different after. That is a real situation in any kind of business context. And I think if the environment has not necessarily been set up like the way that you describe, where individuals feel comfortable sharing, then that could be a challenge. But I think culture plays a role in it, because if you are coming in a leadership position where there is established staff, there's established culture. It's not just you coming in with your hat on with this plan that you want to do. You really have to get into learning what has been happening before and what is the temperament of the staff and what is the established culture. And then you have to kind of implement different theories into it to try to get that practice out. And that is, I think, the most challenging thing a new leader could encounter is walking in to establish staff that the work environment is toxic. It's been toxic for years. And then you really are coming in with a genuine desire to uh, move the company forward, move the organization forward, and they're not ready for it. Another example where you would hear this kind of mentality is in the meetings. You would have a discussion and then they don't share it with you. They would talk amongst themselves. I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't know who she thinks she is, but we're not doing that because or they would even say it in the meeting. That's not how we usually do it.
We don't
That
do that here.
that is that is the most discouraging thing that you could say to a person in a leadership position. This is not how we normally do it. We've never done that before. Well, of course not. That's why I'm here. Let's try it. And then there's this pushback to that. And so I think within that, let's be frank. This is the reason why many new leaders just clean ship and bring in their own team, because they already have the pressure of the job and they really just don't want to have to deal with that. That's just being really bluntly honest. That's just really what it is, because the individuals have demonstrated in one way or the other, or they've been that in several times going in to fix things, make it better and move on. If you're not into that, then you have to go. But within that though, we do kind of break down how you can try to massage that, which includes and not limited to find the root person that is causing this, and they have to be removed. That's the tough part.
Yeah. And sometimes it's basically because when you come in as a new leader too, some people come in and be like, well, I am the new person and I am going to do this way, and I am. And you have everyone sitting back and like, okay, let me see how you're gonna do it then. Because then they put up these barriers and be like, okay, because you can't do all the
Good luck,
jobs, so
sister.
let's see. Good luck with that. And so, even as leaders, because I also like to take it from the perspective of the leader, you're coming into a foreign territory. And so sometimes you need to learn what are the customs, what are the practices, and use that in your explanations. And for instance, a situation with everyone has keys for everything, and then you come in and say, you know what, I want one specific key, and I want you to sign for the key. Oh, people get upset, and they be like,
Over
oh,
the
who does
smallest
what,
thing.
a key? But you can say, listen, if something goes missing from the storage cabinet with all our books, and that book is not there, then it will be deducted from everyone's salary because I won't be able to pinpoint what happened because everyone has a key. Then you start to hear people say, no, not me, no, hold your key. I don't want to have anything to do with that because now there's a consequence of not having a structure in place. And
Correct.
so in the approach or the introduction or the getting to know the new staff or the new persons you're going to lead, if you use the the language that says we are making a change and not I come to make the change for you,
Right.
sometimes you get a different response. So, it is leadership is a work in progress, and it is one of getting to learn, adapting, and the same processes that you're taking your new company through, or your new organization through in order to achieve success. Those are the same things that you have to do for yourself in order for it to be a team collaboration. Because you're coming in as the leader, but the persons that you're leading, because I hate to use the terminology followers because it seems, because all of them are leaders in their own right. And you know what's so amazing? Sometimes you will find within that team various leaders in their specific tasks that could execute without a blink. And maybe because they felt, well, you're going to come in and do what you want. I don't want to show my potential or so forth. And so it's always very, very important to take that time to get to know who you're working with, get to
Mm-hmm.
know what are the things that are customs. One of my famous sayings that that I almost got lynched for was sometimes we have to look at tradition because that does not mean it is right. And so because things are being done a particular way for years, and yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean it was the right way.
It
And so
doesn't.
that takes a lot of adjustment, but it
Mhm.
also comes with, okay, what happened then? What was the processes then? What was the outcome then?
Then,
Are there any new
then,
things adapted
then.
now?
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
keep stressing on then because you want them to see that we're not disregarding how it was done then, but there are other expectations now. Things aren't the same now. The
Right.
outcome definitely is not going to be the same as then. And so it is just a breaking down, and it comes back to my puzzle analogy. It's just a breaking down of the big picture. And once you get persons to buy in to what the end picture is going to look like, usually the process is easier. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to tell you it's going to be all fun and games.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be a little easier. And I always feel that once you have a structure in place where persons knows what the consequences is, what their tasks are, what the expectations are, what their goals are, what the rewards are. Because a lot of time as leaders, we are so focused on getting to the end goal, we don't acknowledge the little steps. And so one of my quotes is that success is almost automatic if you acknowledge the little steps of achievements. And that is because those little steps add up. And when you become successful, it wasn't because you just put the whole plate down and the whole picture down and you got exactly what you wanted. No, it was the little steps and the little points of, yes, we did this, that helps you move on and grow and be able to achieve your main goal. So it's very important not only to look at the persons that you're leading and say, you need to do this, you need to do that, you have to have this done, but also to recognize, award, compensate, if that's possible, persons for the things that they do right. And so it's really a balance, and it takes a while to put it together as a leader. So you can't come into a new situation and lead by not being prepared. So you have to prepare
I
yourself.
agree with you wholeheartedly. And I would add this. I think that when HR is aware that a new team member is coming in, whether it's someone part of the team or someone to lead the team, I think it's important to change how things are traditionally done. The first step, of course, is to send out the application, interview people, and be impressed with how they have spoken, the evidence of their work, and any references that they have, anything that you've been tracking for a while, and you have brought that, you want to bring that person in, you hand them a bunch of keys and say good luck. I think the process of bringing someone into a team needs to change. And part of that process is simply literally having a conversation one-on-one or in small groups with the team members that are there. Because part of the resistance is feeling that they're going to be replaced, that they're going to be let go,
Yes.
they're not seen as value, or why was this person hired and not me? I really think that that is a missing point in the HR experience. And I know it's time consuming, but what is the difference between the first scenario? You hire someone, you hand them a bunch of keys and say good luck, or you literally take the time to have a conversation with the staff that's there, the team members that are there, and say, listen, we're bringing in this person. I want to tell you about this person. What do you have any concerns? Because then now, what happens when you're asking someone to train a new person coming in?
Mhm.
Okay. And Brenda, you and I had conversations about that, and we'll speak about that later in our podcast. But really, that's what it is, because then the quality of the training changes. The quality
Yes,
of
for
the
sure.
training changes because they're going to withhold information. They're going to be
Mhm.
hostile. Those lies are going to start coming in and saying like, oh, this person isn't applying themselves. I don't know why they're here, why you brought them in here. No, this is about you
Mhm.
being worried that this person is going to take your job. That's what this is. And even if that
Mhm.
is the case of you trying to restructure, I think that there are different ways that you can make your staff members feel motivated
Okay.
through some enrichment, professional development sessions that could range from how do you deal with perimenopause to helping your kids with homework to these are some free courses that you could take to strengthen your CV, to here's another professional development session that you can have. It's a broader thing. The other thing that I would like to add is we spend many hours at work, sometimes more than we do
At
with
all.
our friends and family, right? And I do think that each person in the workplace has a responsibility to contribute towards a positive work environment. And
Definitely.
this gets into the gossiping. This gets into gatekeeping, withholding information and resources, preventing a person from doing their job. This gets into making lies, bold-faced lies to tarnish another
Mhm.
person's reputation. Imagine the perfect workplace where you do have a leader that has demonstrated everything to get that puzzle together as you just described. And then the team members themselves entering into the situation with the mindset of, I'm going to give my best, I'm going to treat everyone well, and this is what we're going to do. That I think is helpful to a leader
Yes.
when you have individuals that have that thought process. And
Yes.
the final thing I would add on this topic is when you are self-reflecting, because we do mention like a 360-degree evaluation, a
Validation.
180-degree evaluation. We do speak about that thing, and that's great. But how you as a leader interact with your staff, how you handle conflict is huge, is huge, because you cannot take sides. You
Mhm.
cannot have uh, favoritism. And as humans, it's natural to feel safe with someone that you went to primary school and secondary school and high school. And maybe you
Mhm.
met in college and you were in the same fraternity and sorority and everything else like that. And you've known each other for years. But that doesn't mean that person is the best person for the
That's
position.
true. That is
Just
so
because
true.
it makes you feel safe, it doesn't mean that that person is the right person. And
That
so,
is
as
so true.
leaders, you have to be really careful in terms of who you are extending loyalty to. And most importantly, how are you demonstrating that to your staff?
To your staff.
Because they're not going to respect you at all
Mhm.
when they
Mhm.
see that you keep giving promotions to your friends. They're not
Yes, yes,
going to
yes.
respect you when there is a real serious infraction. And we spoke about this because I think that was the
Yes,
one that
yes.
happened the
One.
most recently, but I think anyone can Google it. There was this man that just kept seeing that his coat was wet. He just couldn't understand
Stand.
why this was happening. And he had a hunch, but he just decided to set up a secret camera. It was someone on his team. It was
Mhm.
someone on his team that just took a cup and just dumped it in
Or
his pocket. Just and that stuff plays with your mind.
yes,
So
yes, it
I
is.
I get I get the fact that we have to talk about deliverables. I get the fact that we really do have to think about the long-term goals and all of the many things that comes along with leadership. But how you address toxic people in the workplace as a
It's very
leader
important.
is crucial, because
Yes,
if
it is.
that guy, what ends up happening is, which I don't support, make the person stand up and read some
Mhm.
fake apology. What is that apology going to do with the mind games that person was playing? Because this is someone that was on his team, right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
We'll speak more about that later and other
Yes,
examples. But
yes.
as you know, I'm very passionate about that. Like I think the work environment really needs to go hand in hand with having a wonderful workplace
Mhm,
experience.
mhm,
And
mhm.
and what I just described here is one of the dark side, but then how are you going to shine the light on that? How are you going to address that?
We get the book, Roslyn.
And no, this is the first of our podcasts. Our podcasts are going to be on every first and third Sunday. And Brenda can talk a little bit about the VIP access.
Yes. So we basically have a link, and you can go on the link. We have one or two questions just to get a feedback and how we can better serve you. And of course, by doing that, you come on our VIP listing. And so you will get updates about the book. We are in the last stages of publication and we're excited. And we definitely know that this is a resource tool that would assist persons in order to navigate and successfully earn their goals or achieve what they set out to do with excellence. And so we would like to thank you for taking the opportunity to just listen to us a little bit and to get to know us a little better. I am the mother of two beautiful, supportive children, the grandmother, and of one darling little girl who actually made 8 today. So happy birthday, Mama Pumpkin. And of course, my bonus daughter, Laura, which is part of my team. And of course, one of the things that we didn't mention is that you need to have a core team. You need to have a group of persons that are part of your team that will be able to tell you no, that will be able to tell you good job, that will be able to tell you you need to change directions. And sometimes we only want to surround ourselves with persons who are going to tell us, good job, you did well, or you're perfect. And that does not help in our growth. And so as we delve deeper into the book, we hope that this resource will impact your lives and make your journey on being a leader of excellence, one of not necessarily non darkness, but being able to still have that flashlight when the light gets dim. That's something we do in the Caribbean. I don't know. We tap the remotes and we tap the batteries and we tap them and they just seem to work. I don't know if it's a Caribbean thing, but we want this to be a resource that you can tap into and that the light could shine on your journey of leadership. Roslyn?
Yes, definitely. And if you know someone that is new to leadership and they're having a rough time, this would be a perfect gift for them to start to navigate this incredible journey. And it's not all doom and gloom, but we do want to highlight the truth of it and then provide really helpful tips and strategies that could help you through that process. Um, some people are counting on you to give up, but we
Yes.
don't want you to. We don't want you to. And so we're just here to help you just think about things a little bit differently. And if you would be so kind as to subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it with someone and encourage them to like our posts and keep in touch with us. So, as we would say, bye for now.
Bye.